Hi everyone, it's Kelly with Women for One, and I'm so excited today to be having our first interview with the first man on our site, David Friedman. David is a Broadway producer, very award-winning Broadway producer, I may say, but we're specifically interviewing him about his book that he wrote called The Thought Exchange, Overcoming Our Resistance to Living a Sensational Life. David spends a great deal of his time traveling around the country, lecturing, giving concerts, and teaching the thought exchange principles in corporate settings, New Thought churches, schools, and in private sessions. Most recently, David appeared in his 2012 documentary film, The Thought Exchange, based on his work. The film was directed by Usher Morgan and co-starred Lucie Arnaz, Arje Shaw, and others. So we are just so excited to have David here today to speak a little bit more about what the principles of the thought exchange are and how we can apply them to our lives. So welcome, David.
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm really excited to talk to you. David, first of all, I saw your documentary yesterday. Wow. I really loved it.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, well, first of all, I resonate with everything you do. And I mean, I've been attempting to live that life my whole life. So it just was such a clear step-by-step explanation. And the way you articulate it, it was just really, really helpful. I took like 6 pages of notes.
Oh, good. I think about this a lot, and essentially the way it was done was the producer just asked me questions, and over the years I have developed, 16 ways of doing them, and then we just made sure that everything was in order so that it would unfold so that people could get it.
It's like a structure. Yeah, it's in a structure, and the whole sensations and the belief systems. So how do you define the word authenticity in your life and your world? And the other part of that question is who are your models of authenticity and why?
Well, see, to me, I have the understanding that I have is that our entire life takes place inside of us, only in the world of experience. The only thing we ever experience is sensations and thoughts. So, for instance, I'm having this conversation with you, but I could not prove that you are there. All I know is that I experience you within me.
Right.
And everything that you say is only experienced in me via what I think and via sensations that I have and what I think about those sensations. So I think that authenticity is a matter of presence with what is. And, a lot of metaphysics, people try to improve or get somewhere or release something or get rid of something.
Right.
I say, just have it. If I have the thought that, I'm never going to have anything again in my life, notice that I have that thought. I don't have to say, cancel, get rid of that thought. Oh my God, I can't, because that's sort of my inner child calling to me, telling me that it has some fear that needs me to notice. So I think authenticity is being present with what is exactly as it is. And someone might say without judgment, but I don't say without judgment. I just say, notice that you have judgment.
Right.
Notice that you think that, this is horrible, and you think that that person's an idiot, and you think that, but just notice the whole shebang, and then it becomes meaningless, and you're just here, and you're free to express whatever you want to express, and you're open to every idea. So authentic is the same to me as love, it's the same to me as peace, and it's the same to me as forgiveness. All of those three things are nothing more than being with what is as it is, and in order to do that, you have to be with yourself however you are when you're being with those things, which could be the Joe Sonic when you're with those things.
Right. And so just being with it.
Just be with what is, as opposed to trying to manipulate, get rid of it, cure it, heal it, move it. Just notice.
Okay, that's beautiful.
And my models of that probably are the Buddhists, are the Dalai Lama, are the people who sort of just sit and sort of just go, and just, so it's not necessarily people who seem to achieve things in the world, because I think things are just a mirror of something. So manifestation is actually very unimportant to me, but manifestation must happen when you are aligned on the inside. But to me, the manifestation itself doesn't mean anything. I mean, I'm in show business, and I know a lot of people who have manifested a ton of stuff and are miserable. And I know people who manifest very little, but just aren't present. So I think that when we are with ourselves, the things that we want to manifest that truly reflect that will be there. If we're trying to manifest something because we think that we're not good enough, and if we just have that thing, we would be good enough. When we have that thing, we will still think we're not good enough. It won't do us.
Right. That's a really interesting point around manifestation, and I don't have this as a question, but it brought up a question. So when you're talking about manifestation, I lost my question, but it just, you triggered something in me when you said that, because it's all about setting in it, not even being present to what is, and then what will manifest. Surrendering to what will manifest? Is that what you're saying?
Well, when somebody says to me, for instance, I want to manifest a Broadway show.
Okay.
I say, why? What do you think a Broadway show will give you?
Right.
And they say, well, it will give me money and fame. And I say, okay, and what do you think that money and fame will give you? And they say, it'll give me a sense of peace and value. And then I say, well, you have to work on the other end of the telescope. Until you have a sense of peace and value, you can't have this. Even if it manifests, it will not fit you that way. Now, the way to get a sense of peace and value is not to try to have positive thoughts and stuff like that. It's to be with yourself and valuing yourself with whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, or whatever you are. That's what you are, and that's fine. And then when you have that sense of value, then if a Broadway show actually is an expression of that value, it will come up. But you don't need to have a Broadway show to have value. But if it's your particular talent and your particular gift, you will have that. Or you might do something else. And then everything you do has value. And it doesn't really matter what you do. You will find value in a conversation. You will find value in whatever. And so things manifest, but it must, the manifestation, I view everything that happens as serving me. Everything.
Right.
I just...
Me too.
I think because the world reflects me, so I go, oh, God, I just saw that I'm thinking that I'm a piece of crap. Oh, thank you for doing that. I didn't realize I was thinking that. And so,
well, how do you think your creative expression has shifted in the manifestation realm from getting more awareness around this and getting really clear and practicing?
It's interesting because there's certain pieces of, there's no question that I've been very successful, but to me, there are certain things that have really eluded me. And as I notice they elude me, and as I get more aware, I realize that they're eluding me because I need to, this is complicated, but it's sort of like my inner child who never got seen.
Right.
Keeps creating incidents for me in which I will, as a adult, feel like the inner child felt, so that the inner child can finally feel those things with an adult's presence and, not have to hide and do stuff to get around them. So the inner child keeps creating these incidents, these failures, as it were, and I keep trying to fight them off by not having them. What I do now is I have them. I know, like I just did a Broadway show, Scandalous with Kathy Gifford, and it definitely failed, it didn't run. And I just was with how that felt. So I actually had a wonderfully enjoyable experience through the whole thing. I was not devastated. I felt what I felt. I loved doing it. I loved the people. And I realized, I have just had my thought that I can't have a hit reflected to me. So I just sat with that and went, what does this feel like? I don't have to be afraid of this. I don't have to generate a hit so that I won't have this feeling. I can have this feeling. What's happening now is I have 2 shows that are steaming toward Broadway, because that path has opened up, because I have allowed myself to feel what the failure was there to have me feel, and so now I don't have to have more failures to feel that. I know it's there. So now I can have successes, which don't mean that I'm good and the failures meant I'm bad.
Right.
Have successes. Yeah.
Right.
Just,
and so you're not attached to outcome at all.
No, I wouldn't say that, because I'm not a Buddha.
You're not a Buddha. Yeah. But you're moving towards it. You're moving towards.
I don't get attached to outcome. It's not the outcome that I'm attached to. It's that I'm afraid of some sensation that I'm having, and I immediately go to that sensation. So I would say that I am more and more able to know that if I fail, I mean, what I was thrilled at was that when this Broadway show failed, I did not have one thought that said anything about my value or my talent.
Isn't that so cool? I love that, because I'm just beginning to experience that in my life, where it's like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. Not, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure and I screwed up and I should have done it this way. Yeah, it's like,
not only did that not work, but that was a gift, and that it gave you a chance to feel something.
Yep.
That you needed to feel, you needed to be able to be with, so you wouldn't have to avoid it and avoid your good. So nothing matters. I mean, it's like, this interview doesn't matter. It's just joyful. It's
right.
Nice. That's what I'm doing now, you know.
Yeah, and so that, you touch on gratitude there a lot, right? So you really are able to move into gratitude a lot more, with a lot more ease, practicing this method.
And the thing is, you see, the thought exchange is very much about trying to get under things and figure out why, you know, people use these platitudes, but they don't work. We don't seem to be anything positive here on this stuff. So the thing I have to say about gratitude is, gratitude doesn't always feel good. Gratitude is not, oh, I'm so grateful, I'm so happy. Gratitude is, again, allowing things to be just as they are, because you know that the world is benignly simply reflecting you to you, so that you can see you. And so, you know, if your hair were a total mess and I said, oh, Kelly, I just want to tell you, your hair's a mess, you might feel a very uncomfortable sensation when I said that. But if you said to me, how dare you tell me my hair's a mess, I'm so insulted, as opposed to, oh, thank you, I didn't realize my hair was a mess, now I can fix it. And so we say to the universe, how dare you tell me that I'm thinking I'm no good? Well, so that you can do something about it.
Okay, so I mean, I've got so many things to ask you around sensations and the 4 things, and sensations the biggest one. But first, it just came to me. I like to personalize these sometimes to kind of get an example. So it just came up in my head, so I'm going to go for it. When I was a little girl, my father, when I was 5, who was my abuser as well, whatever, incest survivor, he told me, we were watching a Miss America pageant, I remember it to this day, and I said, oh my gosh, Daddy, look at these girls, and I had been abused already. I said, look at these girls, they're so beautiful. And he said back to me, well, no, they're not. You're the most beautiful girl in the world. Okay, so when I was looking at my shame around my body and my looks and all that stuff, that came up, you know, when you like dig deeper, and it came up that statement there, I wanted you to take me through the thought exchange statement on that one, because...
Okay, so what happens is, you're a child and your abuser tells you that you are the most beautiful in the world.
Right.
That statement is associated with abuse and with discomfort.
Yes.
And with something's the matter and if and all that stuff. So whenever somebody says in later life, you are beautiful, or you are talented, or you are wonderful,
right,
you feel the same sensation that you felt. Which, of course you will. How could you not? You know, if you walked past a building and someone shot you, there's no way you're going to walk past that building without feeling some sort of anxiety.
Right.
The trouble is that all a child can do is take on what we call protective thoughts to get away from the thought that is causing the uncomfortable sensation.
Okay.
So you will immediately say, no, I'm not beautiful.
And I still do it.
I can't have this.
And I still do that.
And the point is that, and you will also notice that you always do that. So some people say, I have to get to the point where I feel good when someone says you're beautiful. No, you have to get to the point where you can tolerate the sensation and know that that sensation doesn't mean the same thing, because if someone tries to abuse you with an adult, you could stop them or report them or do something else.
Right.
You may, for the rest of your life, have that meaningless sensation, and that becomes the sensation that comes with someone telling you you're beautiful. It doesn't mean you're not beautiful. It doesn't mean you can't take the I'm beautiful. But just like when I go on stage, my heart pounds and my hands shake. That does not mean that I can't go on a stage.
Right.
I have a wonderful story. I was winning a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Lucie Arnaz was presenting it to me. And she had to go on stage for 5 minutes about me, and then I had to go on and sing. And we're both standing backstage, pacing the floor, nervous, about going on. And Lucie turns to me and she says, okay, go on stage. She says, sensation. What are my sensations right now? My throat is tight, my stomach hurts, and my hands are shaking. I can go out there with that. And she walks out.
So you're just present to it. You just are present to it.
Yeah, and you're present to it, and it doesn't mean anything. And not only doesn't it mean anything, but suddenly this child, it's as though when your father said that, this child turned to the adult you who was sitting there and said, I feel so uncomfortable. And you said, oh yes, I can feel that too. Yes, this makes sense. Yes, I feel it with you. And you see, I'm here, I can feel it with you. And that doesn't mean that this has to happen. So the child suddenly, gradually grows up, and the child is comfortable and safe, but people get duped because they are waiting to feel good 99% of the time. Unless you've had no difficult incidents with something, you will feel like crap when you get what you want. And if you're not willing to feel that way, you can't take it.
You just have to feel it. You just have to feel it.
Yeah, I always feel uncomfortable when I win awards. I always feel frightened when people make me offers. I always feel shaking when I go on the stage. And I notice, if I have a performance tomorrow, I have to tell you, I know I can't do it. And as I know I can't do it, I warm up my voice and I pick out my outfit, and then I go down and I do the technical rehearsal knowing I can't do it. And then I stand in the wings and they call my name and I know I can't go on and I walk on.
Okay.
That's what goes on in me, and people keep waiting to release it. That would be like a child coming to you saying, I'm so upset something happened, and you say, I'm releasing you.
Well, and David, this is the thing with me. This is my learning with what you're telling me, because I have hit that place and I'm waiting. So this is a big aha for me, because I'm still waiting to go when someone says I'm beautiful. Someday, I'm going to take it in and feel beautiful.
Right. The way to take it in and feel beautiful is to take in that the child was told they were beautiful and something terrible happened. And you go, oh yes, I remember that. I can feel that. And that doesn't mean that I'm not beautiful.
It's amazing.
To notice that, yeah. It's just, and people are waiting for something. But if you didn't have that thought, then the child would be obliterated. That's the whole history. The child would be lost in past. And then what happens is the child goes underground, and then you start to act it out.
Right.
The child will keep acting out. It's not sabotage. The child is trying to get your attention to say, wait, this is the way I felt when I was told I was beautiful. And watch out.
Be careful. Yeah.
When you're told you're
it's coping.
And you're saying, no, it doesn't have to happen. I hear you.
Right.
I see you. Of course you feel that way.
Right.
Of course my heart pounds when I'm about to go on the stage.
Right.
But that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between sensations and emotions? I want to give our community a flavor when,
Sensations are invisible experiences, like tightness, hotness, coldness, shaking, emptiness, rushing. They are they're the experience of those things. Like if your heart is pounding, the pounding heart is not a sensation. It's how you experience the pounding heart. What we generally call feelings or emotions, which are like happiness, sadness, anger, love, are thoughts about what the sensations mean. They are us thinking that my pounding heart means that I'm angry, or that my churning stomach means that I'm in love. They're interpretations, so they're thoughts. Sensations in themselves are meaningless as a thought. It's a thought that doesn't mean anything. But sensations are just experiences that have no intrinsic meaning. And then when we say emotions, we give them meaning. And as soon as it's funny because I've been working with people a lot on the notion that thoughts and sensations have no meaning. And people are very upset by that. But what I realize is it's sort of like God. You know, there's a thing in the Jewish religion that you are not allowed to say Yahweh. You're not allowed to say the name of God. And I always thought if I said Yahweh, I would be hit by lightning. Now, if you really go back and read the literal interpretation, it is not that you're not allowed to say it. It is that it is not possible to say the name of God because God is not a definable physical thing. God is an invisible experience.
Right.
That's why we never see God. There's nothing to see. So by the same token, the meaning inherent in something is simply the experience of it. As soon as we describe it, we're not in the meaning. Where in a description, Eckhart Tolle says if you're walking down a path and the trees are beautiful and everything, as soon as you say, oh, this is beautiful, you are not in the experience. You are outside of the describing. So sensations are just an experience that you just had. Your stomach goes whoops, and you feel your stomach goes whoops. Now you will notice that you immediately generate thoughts about what that means, what it limits, what it portends for the future, what it says about the past, what's going to happen. All of those are just thoughts.
Right.
The fact that you think, this is an interesting thing that's very contrary to a lot of positive thinking stuff. The fact that you think that you can't do something does not mean you can't do something. The fact that you think everything's going to fall apart doesn't mean everything's going to fall apart.
Right.
It just means that you think that. If you don't know that you think that, the world will immediately show you think that, and you'll see it in front of you as a manifestation. The purpose of which is not to ruin you or hurt you, but to let you know that you're thinking it.
Right.
Because the world always says yes.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Your theory is fascinating, and it's also very what's the word for me? It's simplistic, but it's also it's like an easy thing to grasp. But then your brain, because you're thinking about it, makes it more complicated. Does that make sense?
And it's also hard to do because you encounter the very things you feel. We don't fear outcomes or feel sensations. You're feeling a certain way. The only reason we want to have an outcome is to feel a certain sensation.
Right.
Once we can feel all our sensations, we don't care.
And then, how does the thought exchange process eliminate? I mean, I know this, but I'd love to hear you talk about it because it really is what the premise of Women for One is about. How does it eliminate victimization?
Well, there's sort of no such thing as victimization.
Right.
You are victimizing yourself. You know, it's so interesting because being the only man you've interviewed so far, years ago I was the keynote speaker at the Oklahoma Women's Bar Association convention.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I looked at all the speakers, and all the speakers were, I am woman, we won't let those men get us down, we've got to show them, etc. And I posed that if they were thinking that, then it was they who were thinking that men were more powerful than men. And they who were thinking that they had to come up from behind, or that they had to rise to something. And that's really why that was appearing. And so rather than fighting the men or fighting for their rights, which when you understand your value, you will actually fight for your rights, you know, but it'll be inside of a different head. And so I noticed that a lot of times, it's like in the gay culture, people are thinking that if you're fighting to be equal and stuff like that, in a certain way, you're thinking you're not. And one of the things that really has to happen when you fight to be equal is you have to know you are. Really know you are.
Know it.
And
yes.
Yes, know it because you are an experience, and no one can possibly be more of an experience than you. You are your experience. And so victimization is something happened and you think somebody did it to you.
That's right.
In fact, you are having a thought and you are enacting that victimization on yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't feel terrible when somebody appears to do something to you, but the point is to be able to experience it. And then your adult self will act in a way. Like when you read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, he was in a concentration camp. He could certainly say he was victimized, but he experienced that inside of himself, nobody could touch him.
Right.
So he just noticed that he was having very unpleasant, uncomfortable, aggravating experiences, but he was still there in all his fullness. Nobody could take that away.
Well,
you realize that you live inside. It's fantastic.
It is amazing. But I what did happen around the Sandy Hook Elementary School, or what happened with our country, I noticed that, every first reaction, knee-jerk reaction, is to go into blame of guns, go into blame of, all of the blame that was going on. And Eckhart Tolle actually wrote the root of violence, Pull the Root of Violence. And he talked about, it's a reflection. If we're deciding that this is a gun issue, if we're deciding that this is an education issue and a boundary issue, that's what it will be. It's a reflection of us. So I was so like aligned with what he said, and I spoke very freely about it with people, and it really triggered them. Well,
people get furious because it's like my partner Sean Monahan is a reverend. He said, "Can you imagine the bigness and bravery of a soul to come to this planet as Adolf Hitler, the most hated person in history, to teach us all a lesson about love?"
I completely agree. I completely agree.
People are like, "What? How dare you say that?" Because their sensations get triggered. So, see, what we know about Sandy Hook is that it feels terrible and we don't like it, and it's created a lot of pain.
Right.
We do not know the bigger picture.
Nope.
So I have a friend, for instance, who's a cabaret singer, and she said, "Oh, I feel so guilty because so many of my friends have died and I'm still here." And I said, "How do you know that your friends are not floating around in the ether going, 'Oh my God, I wish you would get out of that body already. She's down and it's horrible, and we're all up here having a wonderful..." You have no idea.
We don't.
We have no idea what these deaths mean. We do know that they're very, very painful to us. Mm-hmm. And we do know that they generate a lot of sensations. But we're making, to get rid of those sensations, we're making things up about what it means and about these people are bad and that this is horrible. What really drives me nuts is, like, for instance, you get something like the Sandusky case.
Right.
Now, there's no question that these kids were abused and it was horrible and it was, but when you read blogs and people say, "That disgusting piece of crap, he should be hung by his..." Oh, come on.
Yeah.
This is a sick man. This is something this is just, and as you said, it's our sickness. I watched the buildings of the World Trade Center go down. I could see them from my window. And then I heard the president speak and say, "We got to track down the people who did this and get them back." My reaction was, "God, what are we all doing?"
Right.
"God, what am I doing?"
The root of violence.
What am I thinking that this is going on?
It's creating. Yeah. Look inside ourselves, because we are creating this mirror. I completely agree.
Right. And how do I react to it? What do I think? Do I think that what I want to do now is, I have a sensation. Do I think what I want to do is blow someone else up? Well, that's not going to do any good. I have to feel this.
Right.
It's just mine. So in that way, I'm not a victim. I'm experiencing something where it can all be used for peace and for inner harmony. But you have to be willing to experience it. And it's very challenging. It can be, to get people to sit with their sensations, because their sensations are associated with things from childhood where they think they must get away from them or they will die.
Absolutely. So what is your future vision of your life's purpose around the thought exchange and the world at large?
Well, what I do, I've come to understand because, most of what I do is I'm a songwriter, and for years I've written songs and I'm doing shows and stuff like that have a sort of healing element. And when I started Blood Exchange, I began to, people were like, what does this have to do with what you're doing? And I realized that basically my intention is to heal whoever I can touch with my healing. When I'm given a class that has 2 people in it, I work with those people. I work with the world. I work with corporate organizations. I work with singers. I speak things like this. I mean, I just do it. I do it all the time. If you woke me at 3 in the morning, I would have this conversation with you. So it's just, what I love is it's really, since the only world I know is going on in me, it's really about my inner world. And in terms of being able to do that, the more present I am, the more people get this and have lives that are aware and conscious and peaceful and forgiving and centered. I mean, like, the reason it's so hard to forgive is that in order to forgive, you don't have to like what the person did. You have to acknowledge that it happened, acknowledge this is the way it feels, and acknowledge this is what's going on inside of you. And that's the way
That's it. Mm-hmm.
And then you forgive. So I don't sort of have my goal is to get everybody to do whatever. I'm just here, and anybody who comes across me and touches me or reads my book or whatever, I get great interior growth and satisfaction out of sharing this with people and out of communicating in this way. And I think the more people who do this, the less crime there will be, because crime is only that someone has a sensation that they can't tolerate, so they spit it out at someone else, and what they get back is a mirror of that they think they're no good. I think there will be more harmony. I think that people will be more comfortable. I think people will be happier. And I think manifestation will occur as a natural outgrowth of that.
Right.
And mostly, we'll be able to enjoy our manifestation.
Yeah, be present to it.
We have 3 homes, and they're all beautiful. And I think I live in the most beautiful homes in the world. I just have a beautiful home in Connecticut, a beautiful apartment on the 41st floor overlooking the river in Manhattan, a beautiful apartment in Tampa. Now, obviously, there are houses and apartments that are more glamorous and bigger and more gorgeous than mine.
Right.
I suddenly realized one day that when I was living in a little studio in the village, I thought that was the most beautiful apartment in the world. Mm-hmm. Where I live is the most beautiful. It has nothing to do with any measure of that. And I know people who live much more lavishly than I and complain about it.
Right. The $7 million example you gave.
That's right, exactly, yes. It's exactly that story.
In your movie, in your documentary. That's great.
So I just realized that it's all in me. And the more people realize it's all in them, I mean, it's sort of strange, because actually to me there is no them.
Right.
People say, well, it's just me, I'm so lonely. I'm not lonely, because you're not out there. You're in me. You are an experience in me. You're closer to me than you could ever be being out there.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing you inside of me. And that's as close as it gets.
And don't you think that the more percentage you believe that, your actual entire being embraces that concept, the more peace there is? Because I feel it. Percentage-wise, I
also just experience. It makes no sense to me to be anything else. It's just it can't be any other way. It's just,
right.
This is, I'm experiencing everything. That's all there is. I don't know what's really out there. I'm not saying there's nothing out there, but I have no idea what's out there. I just know that I'm having an experience inside of me.
Right. And I hate to say it, but it just reminds me similarly of The Matrix in some ways. I hate to but just that the movie The Matrix, how it was inside.
Everything that's pointing to that truth. Any sort of valid spiritual system or concept or story is pointing us to that truth. And again, the trouble is that someone reads a Bible story and they think the Bible story is about what happened. It's not. It's about the truth underneath it. And that's what really these stories are all about. And that's what the Bible is pointing us toward. It doesn't matter that Adam was a person and he lived 5,700 years ago and he ate an apple. That's all symbolic.
Right.
It's symbolic of a truth. And every religion has someone walking on water. Every religion has the seas parting for someone. Because these are allegories for something invisible. And until we understand that we are invisible, and in our invisibility, we are invincible, because you cannot, no matter what happens, it does not limit the infinite possibility that I am. It can't.
Right.
You couldn't possibly. And you can toss a coin 5,000 times and it comes up heads. The chances of it coming up tails on the 5,001st is 50-50.
Well, and what I love also is that you have simplified a quantum physics, like quantum physics at its most simplest. And you had a physicist on there. I saw him. I've seen him on What the Bleep in different movies. And it's just so wonderful because the layman can understand the concepts you're creating and teaching. That, you know, when I read quantum physics books, my brain goes crazy because it's just, yeah.
And this is really just, quantum physics is just catching up to what intuitively spirituality has always known.
Right.
And so it's just, you know, it is the same thing.
Yes, it is. So I have one more question, and that is, what one piece of wisdom or advice or words that come up for you that you would most like to share with our community? And keep in mind, our community is very interesting. We're approaching the 4 million followers. I'm really amazed at how it's manifested. I heard global, and it's gone global, and a lot of the women and people that follow us are in Egypt and Macedonia. We have the largest following.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
It's
amazing. So they really want to grow.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm just getting the American women on board right now. It's kind of funny, but it's okay because I heard global, and that's where we're going. So, just if there's anything you'd like to say.
The one piece of advice I have for everybody is, if you have a problem, if you have a challenge, if you don't know what to do, if something is troubling, if something that appears awful happens, do one thing. Go to your sensations. Just experience the tightness in your stomach, the pounding of your heart, the shaking of your hands, and just experience that, period. And just go to that experience and be with it.
And how did you find that was successful for you?
Because when you are in that experience and you do that, what happens is you are not resisting possibilities. You don't have to take on thoughts. You jump away from that experience. See, if you can't be with an experience that comes with a thought, you can't have that thought. So if you can't be with the sensations that come when you are told, I am beautiful, you can't have the thought, I am beautiful. If you can be with the sensations that come with that thought, you can stay with that thought and have the mirror appear in the world that tells you, that reflects that. So the thing is, what we want to do is learn to be with whatever sensation we're with, so we can have any thought.
Because then you're fully present. You're not avoiding it with a protective thought. Right.
That's right. And then you can have any thought. So you can think, I can think I want to go to the moon. And, most people would say that, and then they think, no, I can't. Why? Because you have a sensation. If you can have the sensation that comes with, I want to go to the moon, you can go to the moon.
And what I was asking you though is, personally, how did you figure that out? You figured that out because of your panic, because of what happened when you were in your 20s. Like you just.
When I had panic attacks, I had serious panic. I was hospitalized.
Right.
And so every time I get up, the room would spin and my heart would pound, and I was so angry, and I said, "Oh, this is horrible. I'm just going to never be able to do anything." And one day, I said, well, okay, I want to walk across the room, and when I walk across the room, I'm going to get dizzy and my heart's going to pound. Fine. So I walked across the room, I got to the other side of the room, and I was dizzy and my heart pounded, but I got to the room. One Christmas Eve, I said to my father, I was in New York, and I said, drive me down to Macy's, drop me on 6th Avenue and meet me on 7th Avenue. And I just walked through the ground floor of Macy's on Christmas Eve, the busiest shopping night of the year, and felt my sensations, felt the pounding, felt the shaking, felt the, whatever was going on with me, and got to the other side. And so within a year, I was conducting on Broadway. Now, to conduct on Broadway, you're standing in a very confined space, and you're doing something where you're not allowed to stop in front of 1,000 people. It is a, agoraphobic nightmare.
Right.
So I just conducted, and I put a sign on my music stand which I'm sure the first row enjoyed. It just said, "So die." And what I was saying to myself was, drop dead if you do, but don't walk off the sand. And so night after night, I would experience those sensations. Now, when people are going through that, they say, yes, but will they ever end? And I say, I don't really know. I said, I don't care, because I hardly ever have panic, but if I do, I just have it. Mm-hmm. And so I could be having a panic attack right now, and I'd just be chatting with you.
You allow for it. Yeah, you allow for it. Right.
And so I allow it. So that's the thing. So we keep everyone, so many people's objective is to get rid of something, or free of something, or tone it down, or feel better, or, take deep breaths, or come down. No. Have your sensations. And when you can have your sensations, I can have the sensations of panic. So if something instills panic in me, it does. Mm-hmm. So what?
Yeah,
and then the panic ceases to mean anything, and you often cease to notice it.
And resistance is pain. I've heard that for years. Resistance is the pain.
That's right. And resistance generates persistence. That's absolutely true. Resistance is the pain. That's great.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of things. If I stopped now, I'm probably having things, I'm doing an interview, so if I stop and look, I go, I'm really enjoying this interview, but my chest is a little tight, my throat feels a little bit like a short breath, I have kind of a band around my eyes a little bit, all things that I would have considered anxiety, I now don't. I have them, I don't care.
Well, and I loved your comparison for an orgasm compared to anxiety. It's the same thing. It's all perception. It's all perception.
Why don't we decide? This is great. I can't believe it. I remember there's a line from Talk Song Trilogy where I said, I can't be in this relationship. And he says, why? And he says, because when I make love to you, I lose myself. I start spinning. My heart starts pounding. And he goes, and the problem with that is?
It's so true.
Yeah.
So if you have a problem, if you have a challenge, go to your sensation. That's your advice.
That's right. Go to your sensations and see what happens.
Be present with it.
It boils down to go to your sensation.
Thank you, David. This is so wonderful. I so appreciate your work in the world. I hope I can connect with you in the future. This has been wonderful.
Anytime. I love talking to you about it, and I thank you for, spreading the word about this, because I want as many people, if people go to theThoughtExchange.com, you can get a sort of daily thing. If you sign up for the newsletter, and every day you get one paragraph talk from me about something you can work on.
I'll do that. I didn't know that. And then the other thing is, if you're ever out in Seattle, I'd love to promote you and have you do a workshop out here. So anytime.
Because I'm planning to come out to Seattle sometime in not too distant future. I'll let you know.
Please let me know. I'd happy to help arrange or anything you need me to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David. Take care.
Okay, it's wonderful to talk to you.
Wonderful. Take care. Bye.